Welcome back to Heart with me, Shakti Sundari, and we're speaking with Jen, otherwise known as Matahari-Ji. And Matahari-Ji is a twin flame coach, a spiritual guide, a way shower, a luminary who supports others in really stepping up into their ascended self. So super excited to welcome you today. Hi.
Hi.
Somebody's watching this and they're like, I feel called to this, I really want to meet my twin flame.
Yeah.
What do I need to do to be ready for this?
What you have to realise is that you are already in union with your twin flame. There is absolutely, just because you can't see your twin flame on with your 3D eyes, on the 5D level, you are in union with your twin flame. So everything on the 3D level is temporary. Everything on the 5D level is eternal. So just trust me, you are in union with your twin flame. So what you have to realise, you have to start saying, thank you, universe, like going, oh, wow, that's amazing. Like, you have to start living as though it is real, because it is real. It is real.
So do you know your twin flame?
Okay, yeah.
Tell me about that. Tell me about your twin flame.
Okay, yeah. So basically, what happened to me was that I always knew I was a twin flame. Like ever since I was a little girl, I remember like talking to him. I remember every day I used to look up at the stars, and I used to like just send a message to the star and ask the star to send it to him. And I'd look at the moon and go, oh, we're both under the same moon. This was from a really, really young age. I always knew that I was a twin. I knew that I came in as a pair, and I knew that he was here as well. So, and I devoted a lot of my adult life to that search. Anyway, a lot of people that know me and follow my YouTube videos, they know that like I experienced a life-changing Kundalini awakening, spontaneous Kundalini awakening when I was 21 in northern India, and basically I was chanting the mantra Om Namah Shivaya, and I was really high up in the Himalayas, and I just met my catalyst twin, and just after chanting the mantra Om Namah Shivaya, I was guided to go to the edge of the mountain and look up at the sky, and in that moment, this massive light, I basically had a near-death experience, but while in my body. Because I realise that now. So in that moment, I was like, Om Namah Shivaya. I must have said it about 20,000 times that day, and everyone's like, Jen, can you stop saying Om Namah Shivaya?
So
I
you're
was
just chanting it one day?
I'd never heard it in my entire life. And this woman met me, she was like, you've got to say Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. I was like, all right then. And so I just said it about 20,000 times that day. And then basically got to the top of the mountain, and then I stood at the cliff and I looked up at the sky, and then all of a sudden this massive light came on in the sky, and I was just on my own, and then it came in, and then in that moment my third eye opened, and I knew in that moment that I was staring at God. But the thing was, I absolutely hated the word God, because I'd gone to a Catholic school, and I was like really like, it was like the word that I hated of all words. I was like allergic to it. But in that moment, I was like, oh my God, that is God. God is just love. Like God is just this universal energy that created everything and is the source of all creation. So in that moment, my third eye opened, and I saw the presence of like all these ascended masters, and I felt John Lennon, I felt Mary Magdalene, I felt Gandhi, I felt Bob Marley, he's the strongest. And they were all there going, yeah, one soul's third eye's just opened, hallelujah. and then the light came in, and then it started like sort of like working its way down, and then as it got to my belly, I just started crying, because I had known that I had this realisation that every single moment I'd ever been afraid in my 21 years, because I was only 21, but I was like, moment I'd ever been afraid was a total illusion, because I was always safe. I was always like, God was always watching me. Oh, it makes me feel quite, but I just was like, oh, thank God for that. I was like, oh, I was always all right, sort of thing. And so I was just like really, really, really releasing. And then I had that experience, and I was like, my higher self was like, you've got to go and tell Dean, and because that was this catalyst twin. And so I told Dean, and he'd basically said to me exactly the same thing had happened to him when he was 21. And so we spent the night together and went into total bliss. And then the next day I woke up, and it was just like, it was like all I could hear was the angels singing to me, and they were just singing to me about the beauty of creation. They were telling me like all this stuff about eternity, and I didn't know anything. Like,
had you been spiritual before that point?
Yeah, I was in India. I mean, I was like on the path. I was on the path. Yeah, totally. I was on the path. I mean, yes, I was primed for that role. Like, obviously my higher self was preparing me for that, you know, but that's just another story, like how prepared I was. But anyway, I woke up the next day, the angels were singing to me about the nature of reality, and then I'd go, and then they'd guide me to go to the Bhagavad Gita. I'd go to the Bhagavad Gita, open it up, and it would be like literally word for word what they were just telling me. So I was like getting total confirmation that this was like really, really, like, you know, sort of authentic angelic communication. And then that day I realised I understood about who I am, understood about my mission, what my work is, and they told me all that. And then also what happened was I became completely and utterly psychic. And so then everyone I met, I was like, I could completely read their souls, and I had access to the Akashic records, and I could just pull out all information about their soul's journey, their soul's evolution, things that they'd come into clear, things that they'd come into block, their past lives that were their main issues. Like literally everyone I met, I was like, oh my God, I could totally see you from a soul level. It was amazing, and I was 21, so...
Wow, that's so young to have that kind of experience.
I know, but I was like full power. So I met my catalyst twin, and I was like, well, and then after that happened, I received all the downloads about the Magdalene and the Yeshua story, because I didn't know anything about Mary Magdalene. I'd gone to a Catholic school. I'd been fed all the bullshit from the religion. And so then they started showing me, my guys started showing me like the whole timeline of Magdalene, and she were like, she was sent to the Isis temple when she was 4. She was trained as a tantrika from the age of 4. She was, and it was like her whole timeline was showed to me. They showed me that she was the one that initiated Christ Kundalini energy. It was like they came in as a divine pair, and their mission was to restore unconditional love back to Gaia. And so anyway, so because of all these, I was getting all these downloads, I just assumed that this was my twin flame. I was like, you must be my twin flame, because like I just had a Kundalini awakening, third eye awakening, the Yeshua Magdalene, like, you must be. And he was just like, I'm not your twin flame, Jen. He always knew. And I was like, it's not possible. But he's like, I'm your soulmate, I'm not your twin flame. So anyway, I was then attached to him for 10 years of my life. That's another story. I mean, where do you go from that spiritual awakening? Where I went was I stayed in this very, very, very extreme level of samadhi for like 6 months, where I was basically like Kundalini rushing. I was like just rushing. I was like constantly getting just like rushes up and down my spine, and it just wouldn't stop. It was like this, just like this endless bliss that wouldn't stop. Anyway, I got back to England, and after 6 months in India, and Dean rang me up, and he was just like, Jen, I can't do this, I can't be in this relationship. And then when he said those words, that's when I sort of like, I kind of like landed from being like, whoosh. It wasn't a bumpy land at all, it was very, very graceful land, but I landed. And then I began my kind of like path of being spiritually awake from that place of being back in England. And what that was like, it was like, I think a really good way to describe enlightenment is like, you imagine you've got this big massive school hall, and like it's got loads of like cobwebs, and it's got like loads of clutter, and it's really dusty and da-da-da. And so when in enlightenment, when the light goes on in the big hall, you see the mess. You're like, oh shit, I got to clear that. So that's what happened. I was like, oh, I've got a lot of clearing to do, because through my cells, through my ancestral lineage, through my body, this has to be cleaned. So that began that process after my kind of initial. Anyway, so I'd never, I believed that my catalyst twin was my real twin for 10 years of my life, and but he wasn't having none of it. But that didn't convince me. I was like, I got so many signs. It was just crazy. But now I really know. Like, I know when we're dealing with a catalyst twin. So fast forward, quite a few years later. Where are we now? We're 2013, and I'd never on my sort of like being awake path, I'd never ever met a genuinely enlightened person. I met many people who thought they were enlightened, but I never actually vibrationally met someone who was genuinely free in themselves. Yeah. So I then, I basically, I regularly went to India, you know, after my experience, whatever. But so I was in Goa, and I came across this amazing teaching called Balanced View. Do you know Balanced View? And anyway, I met this really amazing teacher called Candice O'Denver, and she introduced me to this practice of resting as awareness for short moments. So even though I was awakened, I never had a practice. And then finally, I received a practice. And that was to rest as awareness for short moments. Just stop thinking. Whenever I remember to do so, just stop thinking and just bring my awareness to the present moment. So obviously I was very, very kind of like, I was a highly advanced sort of being anyway. And so then just getting that practice was just the tiny little tweak I needed then to just put me into this whole new vibrational reality. So there I was, 2013, October, and I was walking around Glastonbury Tor, and then all of a sudden, I got this transmission, like Candice came in via, like, I kind of like had this soul visitation from her, like her 5D self basically came in, and she like dropped in this code into my field, and the code was the realization that basically I am everything that I seek, everything that I have ever searched for or sought, I am that. And in that moment, it was just like, it was such a moment of kind of like clear transmission that I received it. And then I just like flipped inside out. I had literally had this experience of just like flipping inside out. And I was just like, oh my God, all those years I've been searching, all those years I've been seeking, oh my God, I was never going to find it. Because I was seeking my twin flame. I was on that path, you know. And it was just like, and then in that moment, I just dropped my search, just dropped it. I was like, and I was free of my search. So I carried on walking around Glastonbury Tor. And then I saw this really, really thick mist in my third eye, and I saw this outline of a man, and he would like looked like Heathcliff on the moors, and he had this like tatty old coat on, and this really dodgy hat, and like this staff, and he just looked like he was just like a bit weary, and I could just see this outline of this man, and then all of a sudden the clouds parted, and I saw his face. And I was like, it can't be you, surely not. Out of every person on the entire universe, it can't be you. That was my mind's reaction to this person.
Did you know him?
I knew him, yeah. And I was like, how on earth could it be you? Like, I just couldn't believe it was him. And then, all of a sudden, I experienced the divine feminine aspect of my consciousness and the divine masculine aspect of his consciousness rush together, and we just started just spinning. And just like spinning and just dancing, and we were just like dancing up and down Glastonbury Hill, just like basically those. It was the Hieros Gamos. I wow. Totally experienced the Hieros Gamos, and it was like that energy was just like blessing the Tor. It was like the Holy Grail, this moment of like the Holy Grail realization, and it was just kind of like blessing the Tor and just like adding all these sacred codes into the land. And anyway, I walked home that night, and I never ever known that silence that I knew that night, because I knew without any words needing to be spoken, I knew my search was over. There was nothing, there was absolutely nothing, just knowing that my search was complete. And I woke up the next morning, and he came to me in 5D. He came to me, so basically I was sitting there meditating, just like a normal meditation, and all of a sudden, like just clearer than you sitting there, I saw him on a magic carpet, dressed in like this pixie king outfit, just kind of like just come and just kind of like just drop, like, and just come and just sit opposite me in like his full just like whoosh, pixie king sort of like, you know, self. And then he put his hands out to me, and he beckoned me to come into his hands, into his arms, and I walked over to him, and I sat in his arms, and then I watched my limbs shrink, and I just became a 5-year-old girl. And he just held me, like literally about 2 hours, and I just sobbed. I sobbed because I'd never been held by the masculine my whole life, and I just sobbed. And then after that experience, that is when I experienced the full and complete ascension of my consciousness in that day. Yeah, and that was the full and absolute clarity of knowing that my union with my beloved is on.com. It is on, like, do you know what I mean? I was like, it's on, man, it's on. There's no getting away from this. And so that's like when you like awakening to 5D consciousness is knowing that, you know, that there are realms beyond what we can see, feel, touch with our third dimensional selves, but they're more real. This is just temporary. But the love and the connection and the union that I experience with him on the 5D, that's real, that's eternal, that's more real. So
he's somebody you know in this lifetime,
yeah,
but you're not physically together with him.
We're not physically. No, we are not currently physically together in 3D. Yes.
Does he know that you know?
No, not he. Because the thing about it, it's like recognition of your twin flame is all to do with divine timing. It has to happen in divine timing. It has to happen when you're ready. Like, had I found out that he was my twin flame, like an hour before it happened, I wouldn't have been able to receive that information, because it was totally dependent on that download that I had with Candice that prepared my field. For, do you know what I mean? I would have rejected it. I would have been like, go away with that information. That's bullshit. Because, do you know what I mean? Because I always knew this person.
Right.
But I didn't know he was my twin flame until that moment of divine recognition. But, you know, in my own awakening as the divine feminine to our sacred union, I also awoke to the responsibility that I carry as the divine feminine, to be the illuminated one, to be the one that stands in my full goddess presence, and that I do for him. Like, in service to him, everything I do and say and share, every single breath I breathe is in service to my beloved. Yeah.
We have to wrap up now.
Okay.
Yeah. So, wow, everything you've shared is so powerful. I mean, I've been feeling so much energy.
Yeah.
Like from about here up, it's like buzzing.
Yeah.
Major download.
So that means all the other people watching it will get that as well.
Strong.
Yeah.
So just one final thing. Do you have a parting message for anybody who's watching this that's just coming to you right now? Just a short message you might have.
Okay. So the message is that, you know, you think you're searching for your beloved, but you're not. You're searching for yourself, and you're searching for your union with the divine. And you promised your beloved that you would remember that, and you promised your beloved that you would wake up from the illusion that it is something outside of yourself that will connect you with source energy, because that is just not the truth. Your connection to source energy is within you. It's within your own heart. It's within your own presence, within the space and the gap and the peace within your own being. That is what you are searching for. And if you can come to that knowing and reside vibrationally in that knowing, then you will emit the most extraordinary fragrance and tone that will be picked up by your beloved twin flame, and they will be magnetized to you. That is the fast track to twin flame union.
Woohoo! Woohoo! Wonderful. Woohoo! I feel like I could just go on asking you questions forever, but yes, thank you so much. Amazing sharing. I know so many people are going to really love this and get a lot from it, and probably want to watch it again and again and again, actually. Yeah,
it's really good. Yeah, I'm just really getting strong messages from Spirit that it's time for me to go out into the world and share what happened to me when I was like really young, and because, you know, just everything, because it's for all of us. You know, it's all of our birthright is to, you know. And so it's my duty to share that. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jen. So yeah, really heartfelt thanks to Jen, Matahari-Ji, and thank you for watching so much. And join me again next time on Heart to Heart with me, Shakti Sundari.